Hello, folks. Timothy Phelps here with Phelps Can Help TV. Now, we should be joined shortly with Mr. Werner Berger, and we'll go over, talk a little bit more about him. I'm just waiting on him to join the studio now. So in the meantime, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you all for being here. And yeah, we'll get started here momentarily. As soon as he joins in the studio, we'll get started with introducing him. And until then, I'm going to play a little short video.
If you're driven with ambition, ready to elevate yourself, then Timothy Phelps can help. It's time to get comfortable being uncomfortable to see life clearer. You can't drive into the future looking through that rearview mirror.
All right, I'll go ahead and just do the introduction for Mr. Werner, and hopefully he'll be able to get in here soon. He may be having some difficulties. But Werner Berger, he is a bit of a fanatical about health. His motto is, if you don't have health, vitality, and energy, you have nothing. Now, we know some crazy rich people who would gladly trade their wealth for another year of pain-free living. Werner shudders at the statistics. 89% of our people do not reach old age. They die prematurely in pain and suffering and on a boatload of medications. Werner is 83 years old, or 83 years young, we should say, and still is on zero meds. He's a Guinness World Records holder as the oldest person in the world to climb the 7 summits, highest mountain on each continent, including Mount Everest. He loves talking to people about how simple it is to remain healthy or even to regain health. He teaches us 5 critical and easy to understand processes that directly affect well-being, longevity, and weight loss, the latter without cravings. Give me just one moment. I'm going to actually answer this because I think that's him, and I'll be right back with you. This is Timothy. Yes. Okay, the link that I sent you in your email, click on that, and it'll. Okay, let me send you another one. Hold on just one moment. Bear with us, folks. We're having just a bit of a difficulties getting them in the studio. Bear with me one moment. I appreciate your patience. Okay, Werner, I just sent you one there on Facebook. If you'll click that, it should allow you into the studio. Yes, I just sent it to your Facebook Messenger. Just click on that link and you should be able to join the studio. Google is definitely the best. It works better for it. You're not seeing the link. Yes. the same way that like I messaged you this morning and you responded with the email received, I send another one right after that. Okay, let me send you another one through your email, Dan. Okay, that was sent. Just I just sent it again. And if it tries to open up in Safari, you may have to copy it and paste it into your Google web browser. Just bear with us, folks. We're having some technical difficulties getting him in, but we'll be there momentarily. Yes. Hello, Brad. There you go. All right. Well, I will let you go and we'll get you online. Thank you and bye. All right. So hopefully y'all caught the introduction for Werner already. We had some technical difficulties, but we've got him in studio now. So I'll go ahead and bring him on. Werner, welcome to Phelps Can Help TV. How are you today, sir?
I am well, Anthony, now that I'm finally in.
Timothy. All right, excellent. Well, we're very glad to have you here today. To start, would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Wow, where to start? Well, grew up on a farm, ended up being very technically inclined, just doing all kinds of stuff, and loved learning, loved athletics and track and field, especially. And then went to university and then got into my own business and kept playing games or, sports. And very early on realized that, our bodies are really, really sacred and we have total control over them.
Yes.
And the more we know about what they need, the more healthier we're going to be, because the automatic condition of things on this earth are to be healthy, to be well. And if you think of a tree, if you think of a plant, all it does, it strives to be the best that it can be. And I believe the same is true for human beings. And when you do for this body what it needs from you, it can really do miraculous things, because really it is a miracle if you think of it.
Yes, I agree.
To put together this body and have it function the way it does is undescribable in terms of amazement. And yeah, I'll stop there.
All right. Well, you are known to be kind of a health nut. So can you tell us why you're so much of a health nut and kind of how you got started on becoming known as, I guess, a health nut?
Why is I have this belief that if you do not have your health, you truly have nothing, because it doesn't matter what's in your bank account. If you're not healthy, if you're in pain or you're suffering, the way most people are when they get to old age, and we've got some very hard statistics around that. In fact, I'm going to just quote one. 11% of the populace reaches old age. However, 85% of them struggle with pain and meds and issues. And I don't want to be part of that very, very small number that is really huge if you only think in terms of 11%. So that's number one. Number two, what was the second part of your question, Anthony?
Timothy.
Timothy, thank you. I left too many brain cells up on the mountains.
That's fine. That's fine. So what got you started? Just kind of becoming a health nut. What really got you motivated and started in the health industry, so to speak?
Yeah, I mentioned that I grew up on a farm, and this is way back in the late 40s and 50s. And people around me were healthy. And then, of course, I got into city life, and we started eating all kinds of stuff that we did not used to eat on the farm, like ice creams and sugars and stuff that tasted really good. And when I started looking into that, I realized that something is off here. And then I went to a conference, and the guy in front talked about, you've got to be on nutritional supplements because our foods are so depleted. And I said, what do you mean? We can just eat right. All you have to do is know what to eat to be healthy. Little did I know, because this is so many years later and I'd given up on farm life, that our farming methods are so different to how they used to be. We grow things with herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, miticide, insecticides, and we pump hormones into livestock just to get greater produce, greater volume, greater expansion of bodies so that people can make more money. And as a result of that, our foods truly are nutritionally depleted. And not only that, but loaded in many cases with toxins. So that really got me looking at, all right, so what do I do other than go to organic foods, which some people can access, some people can't access. They are significantly more expensive, but it certainly is a way to cut down on toxins. And that's certainly one of the key things in going onto a health regime, is to cut down on toxins. Then into my maybe 60s, my first wife suggested supplements, and this is before I went to that particular seminar. And every time I took the supplements, I didn't feel well. And so I gave up on the idea of supplementation and kept saying, all you have to do is eat right, until I went to this particular session and then learned that all supplements are not created equal. Most of them are just simply on the market to make money. And that, of course, got me into looking at, all right, what are the good, what are the bad, what are the differences? Because ultimately I wanted to be true to my belief of, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. So that got me into this whole trajectory of health and looking at what works, what doesn't work, why does it work, why doesn't it work? And I can keep going on and on.
Well, I love the fact that you realize that, not all of them are exactly what they say they are. There's a lot, not some of them can be really bad actually for you. And I love the fact that you took and actually started doing the research, because a lot of people just take the word for it and they just start taking all these supplements, and then they don't get no better, and sometimes can get worse, or it could cause other issues. So I love the fact that you actually took time to research things for yourself, and that's valuable for anybody to do, I believe. So you talk about how simple health can be, and you've talked also about the 5 elements that you say that people need to consider when thinking about health. Would you care to kind of give us some insight on this? Tell us a little bit about these 5 elements that you speak of.
Sure. I already mentioned toxicity or toxins. And of course, the most blatant one is smoking, because every time we put some toxins into our body has to work that much harder to get rid of them. And for the most part, with our toxin-laden environment, we really cannot reduce it to the point where our body doesn't struggle with them. And an example of this is if you ingest toxins, let's say from food, and your body cannot excrete them, the only thing it can do with them is either to add fat, because fat is a storage place for toxins, or it starts disrupting the effectiveness of your cells. And in other words, they cause cell deterioration. Because when your cells are not either absorbing the nutrition and the fluids that are coming to them, or not being able to shed the toxins that exist within them, they are going to deteriorate. So toxin reduction is one. The next one has to be exercise. Our bodies actually were built to be in motion. And with a sedentary way of living, a lot of people don't exercise, don't get to doing much walking. And it doesn't take, excuse me, an absorbent amount of exercise. 20 minutes of walking per day, and of course the brisker the better, but it does not have to be brisk, is usually enough to at least get things flowing within the body. Now, of course, if you want to start bodybuilding, etc., you can do that, but you should not attempt to do that when you're overweight, because when you're overweight and you exercise more than you should, you create stress. And every time you create stress in your body does one thing. It adds fat, because what it's doing is saving for a rainy day. And it doesn't matter, excuse me, whether it's emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress, it doesn't really matter. Stress causes obesity, and until we reduce the stress, obesity is hard to reverse. And if we over-exercise thinking that we're going to get rid of it, wow, I must have swallowed something that I shouldn't have. Maybe it was a bug, but it's winter. Anyway, if we over-exercise, it tells our body that we're under stress. So what we have to do if you're overweight is you want to reduce your weight first and then start building muscle. And it doesn't mean that you don't do 20 minutes of gentle walking per day during that period. You do need to do that, but you don't want to do too much. The next one has to do with life balance. If you find yourself stressed all the time, you're always busy, or you're always fretting or always upset about something, or you're not sleeping enough, which of course also causes stress, the likelihood of gaining weight or at least having your body deteriorate elevates. And the final one, of course, has to do with nutrition. And we've spoken a little bit about that already. And just let me add, there's a guide that your readers or your listeners could be using if they wish. It's called the Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. It's out of Canada. And it rates our supplements. And it actually says that out of the 1,700 broad spectrum vitamins on the market, 1,000 have no value to the human body. And it also quotes Centrum and One A Day as having a 3.2% usefulness and a 1.9% usefulness, which means we're shelling out a lot of money for very cheap product that doesn't do very much for our bodies. There are only about 66 supplements that have more than a 60 to 70% value to the human body. So there's just so much misinformation out there. Actually, I really shudder to the extent that we are fed misinformation. Anyway, that's part of my beef.
What was the name of that guide again?
The nutritional,
Comparative Guide.
Thank you. The Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. And the author is McWilliam.
All right. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of misinformation out there. And that not only goes for supplements and stuff, that even goes for food. One thing that I always, I've heard all my life is how bad fruit is because of the fact that it turns into acid. And, a lot of people talk about, how when they eat, when you eat fruit and you start, belching basically, that's a sign that it's turned to acid and it's bad for you. And fruit is not bad for you. It's just how you eat it and when you eat it. You should eat fruit on an empty stomach. Eat it in the mornings and stuff, and then it actually goes through the stomach and into the intestines, which fruit's the only food that doesn't digest in the stomach, and most people don't realize that.
Yeah, as you said,
I'm sorry?
We have a bit of a delay, and I'm sorry about that. I interrupted you.
Oh, you're fine. Whenever you eat the fruit and you've already ate other stuff, then it can't pass through the stomach and it causes it to turn to acid. And that's whenever people have issues with it. But fruit is so healthy and most people just don't eat it right. Therefore, that's the reason why they don't get the value from it. I just wanted to throw that in there because you was talking about misinformation. You talk about, how simple it is. And I know one thing that people really struggle with is weight loss. So what's some of the myths that you've heard over the years when it comes to weight loss versus what reality is?
The biggest one is what you have to do is you have to exercise more and you have to eat less. That's completely contradictory to what your body needs, because the more you exercise, the more energy you need. The less food you put into it, the less energy the food generates. So the two are in total conflict. And people can just deal with that. Most people. Some people can push through it. However, there's a dark side when they do. So, as I said, they are now in conflict with each other. And you might last a day, you might last a week, you might last a month. But then the cravings become so intense that your body is really saying to you, you are killing me. Either you feed me and you feed me now, or, I'm going to not be around. And it's not about willpower at that point. It's about life, the need for survival. It's a survival power. So that's number one myth. The second myth, of course, is what you need to do is load yourself with a certain amount of carbs, with a certain amount of proteins, with a certain amount of fats. And the statistics around that vary completely all over the show, and especially with fats. We are told, oh, you shouldn't eat fat because it makes you fat. And that's not true. The good fats are essential to generating energy. The bad fats, for example, the trans fats, and so many of the fats that are in processed food that is supposed to preserve the food are not good for us. So we need to differentiate between, what fat am I going to ingest and what fat am I not going to ingest. Those are really the main ones.
So if someone was working to lose weight, I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And if you had people that came to you and asked you the best methods, and there's all these different diets and stuff, and a lot of them don't do what they're supposed to do, of course. If someone came to you and asked you, what would your advice be as a professional? What would your advice be to help lose weight? What would you say?
I would say look at the four elements that I talked about. And by the way, there's a fifth one. And the fifth one I haven't mentioned, and that's attitude. And the big question around that is, why do you want to lose weight? Is it to be healthier or is it to look better? And it really doesn't matter which you choose as long as you're really committed to it. And you can create a plan for yourself. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's a plan. I would say it's a vision for yourself and how you want to be. And you don't work at living into that vision. You we hold that vision as if you're already there. And you keep holding that vision, and it's got to be consuming to you to have that vision. That's the fifth element. The next one has to do with, okay, then look at these and rate yourself as to where are you on a scale of 1 to 10. On toxins, you will never be at a 10, or toxin reduction, because there are toxins in our air, there are toxins in our food, there are toxins literally in everything we touch. So if you can get even to a 6 or a 7 and start cutting down on some of the obvious things, you're ahead of the game. Same with exercise. You know, are you doing your 20 minutes? If you're doing your 20 minutes of gentle walking, and then gradually as you're losing weight, go a little bit faster to the point where you're just short of breath, then you can score yourself on a fairly high level. And when you're then down where you want to be, or within 15 pounds of where you want to be, and you start building muscle and you actually start tracking your building, you have to track. Whatever you measure and reinforce will come to pass. If you're not measuring, if you're not reinforcing, it will not come to pass. At the same time, if you're somebody that looks at the scale and really gets upset by it, don't measure too frequently. If you don't get upset on a daily basis and create a graph and really see how your weight is changing. Oh, the other thing I should be adding when I think in terms of nutrition is water. You want to drink water, at least half your body weight in ounces of water. However, you want to drink pure water. And so much of the bottled water that we buy is not pure. It's just tap water that's been put through, hopefully, at least a Brita filter. So you need to get to find filters that really take, I would want to say, everything out. But of course, that's also not completely practical. But there are filters that take out 99.9999% of the ingredients that you shouldn't be getting, but still let through some of the ingredients that you want to get. So that's another element. Drink water, and don't think that your weight reduction will be curtailed by you absorbing a lot of water in your body. The water will flush through and in fact help with toxin release. What else would I say? Oh, also recognize that if you have sugar cravings, for example, that's going to take a bit of time to reverse, because unfortunately our brains create loops or create connections that make us sugar addicts. And I know that because I'm tended to be one. So it's going to take some time to reverse or to break those addictions within the brain. And there are, again, some products that will support that. So if you're working at losing weight and it's not happening, start thinking in terms of how can you change the connections, the neural connections within your brain. What else can I add? Oh, sleep. People that don't get enough sleep tend to be heavier than they need to be. So really make sure you get at least 7 to 8 to even sometimes 9 hours, depending on what your body needs are. And don't beat yourself up if you sleep in. Just if you can't wake up, let's say at 10 o'clock, or you shouldn't wake up at 10 o'clock, go to bed earlier. And the final one, of course, has to do with cutting out the news. The news tends to stress us, especially with the divisions that exist within this country right now. So the more you can cut out getting reactivated by that, again, the better it is for your overall health. And ultimately, weight loss shouldn't be just a focus of losing weight. It should be a focus of getting healthier.
Yes.
And that's the case. Now you're supporting this phenomenal system that we have been gifted to actually enjoy and live a fulfilling and emotionally balanced and fun life. Let's leave it at that.
Yes. I love that you talked about, the reason for someone wanting to lose weight, because, just like in business, even in your own health and your own personal goals, your why is hugely important. And a lot of people forget to figure out their true why, what really drives them, what motivates them to do this. And another part that I love that you talked about, because it's something that I talk about a lot, cutting out the news. I didn't know that the stressful situations and things like that caused extra weight gain. So that's a great thing to know there. I mean, that's excellent information there for sure. But I always tell people to cut out the news, because you get on the news, what are you filled with? Negativity. That's all it is. It's negativity. And to live your most epic life, you want to make sure that you're being as positive as possible. And when you're constantly bringing in that negativity, you tend to push it out as well. And vice versa, when you push out negativity, it reflects back to you, and that's what you see the most. So I love that you did that, because it kind of ties into what some of the stuff that I talk about as well. So, all right, Werner, I know that most people are interested in knowing a little bit about your Guinness World Record. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I'm excited about this.
Yeah, a little bit late in life, I sort of looked at my life and said, what is something that I would love to do that I've never done? And in fact, the trigger was I was sitting in a self-development workshop, and that came up. And I thought, wow, what would I love to do that I don't think I'll ever do? And this was before the movie came out, The Bucket List. And I jotted down, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to climb the Matterhorn, because everybody knows this beautiful mountain in Switzerland. And I want to trek to Everest Base Camp, because as a 16-year-old, when Hillary and Tenzing got to the top of Everest, I was so thrilled. Most of the other kids, couldn't have cared less, but something in me got triggered. And so anyway, that was years later, because that was 1989 that I was sitting in that workshop. I thought, that's what I would love to do. Went home, told my kids about it, my wife about it, and everybody sort of chuckled, because I was 55, 56, and the question was, why would this old fellow want to start climbing or hiking in these places? But anyway, one thing led to the next. I did a hike to Everest Base Camp, had a life-changing experience, because I really got a sense of who this guy Werner Berger is. And up to that point, I really had lived with the idea that I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as the next person. And of course, that had all kinds of implications on my life. And it didn't matter whether I had university degrees or I'd grown a business 700% in 7 years. And didn't matter that I'd retired at age 43, couldn't stand retirement any longer, got back into activity. But anyway, started doing more hiking and then started climbing. And the climbing re-emphasized this idea of really knowing, what is it like to live in the present? What is it like to be in such awe of everything around you, including the people around you? And I wanted to help other people experience this as well. Anyway, so one thing led to the next. And finally, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to climb the 7 summits? And took me about 10 years to do that. And the last one was Everest. And of course, I never thought that I'd be climbing Everest. And the question was, I can do the last of the 7, or you're not. So I did it. And still really relish at the thought of it, or talking about it, or thinking about it, because it really was a phenomenal experience. Not just Everest. Even trekking to Everest Base Camp is a phenomenal experience. Or hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, which is just a high altitude hike. It's still an amazing experience. And in fact, I equate that a little bit to a hero's journey, where you launch into something that you're not totally sure about. It's going to be tough. You don't know how tough it's going to be. And then you actually start doing it. and you experience what it's like to be at altitude or to be climbing and being tired, and also being aware of how amazing this globe is. And ultimately you come out the other end having a very different perspective on life. And every time I've taken people on these trips, they've come back with, wow, this was a life-changing experience, which is really what I experienced and why I keep doing it and still do it.
That's absolutely amazing. I love, just the thought of not just living your life, but actually experiencing life. It's so vitally important. I know so many people get wrapped up in they forget about actually experience. I think I might have cut off there for a second, but yeah, they forget about experiencing life, and that's so vitally important. And I love the fact that you do that. And it doesn't matter the age. And I know a lot of people think, well, I'm too old to start following my dreams now, or I'm too old to get start trying to work on my health now. And it's never too late. It's never too late. And I love that. I love, you're very inspirational in that, to be 83, right? 83 years young.
Right on.
83 years young, on no medication, still out there climbing mountains. I love it, man. That's so inspirational. That is absolutely amazing. So
when I first went trekking to Everest Base Camp, I did not anticipate the revelations or the experiences that I talked about. I thought, oh, it'll just be a fun adventure, never even considering that the aftermath or the after effects would be so dramatic, or could be so dramatic, not just for me, but anybody that has joined me. So yeah, I love that you picked up.
You never know what will come out of it, but if you have a dream and you have a vision of something that you want to do, you just have to do it. The time is now. There's no, we're not promised tomorrow. We're not. And hopefully we're all be able to get great health like you, and we can see old age and everything, not be in that small percentage that or actually be in that small percentage, I should say, that actually make it, and not be in the large percentage that are in bad health on a lot of medication and stuff. But I love how you talked about also whenever doing these experiences and stuff, it opens your eyes, so to speak, to the beauty of it. And the world is so negative, and it's so easy to see the negatives in the world because of the fact that honestly we're brainwashed throughout our lives to see that, and to experience life and to truly see the beauty that is God's art. That is absolutely incredible, and I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
Timothy, I'm just thrilled that you picked up on the essence of what we were talking about. Most people don't actually. It's just sort of, oh, this is kind of nice to know. It's kind of nice to hear. But you picked up on the essence of it, and that is a whole number of things. It's never too late to help your body become healthier. It's never too late to experience something beyond one's comfort zone. And those were my words, but that's really what you were focusing on and talking about. So that's,
you get comfortable being uncomfortable. And how old was you when you first started climbing mountains?
I was 55 when I trekked to Everest Base Camp the first time.
Amazing. Yeah. And a lot of that, I'll be perfectly honest with you, a few years back, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it, and I would have been right along with everybody else. But where my main focus is, because I've been through a lot in my life, and for the longest time, I focused on those traumatizing situations, and it messes with your mind. It really does. And throughout life, whether it be people around you, the comments that they say, whether it be TV, internet, whatever the case may be, we are literally brainwashed to think certain ways, to look at things certain ways. I don't look like this person on TV, so I'm not good enough. And I have focused a lot of my attention over the years on, retraining my brain, so to speak, because it's possible. And I'm a firm believer that if you can change your mindset, you can change your life. And and I know you've actually said something throughout this too about changing the way you think and stuff, because you had said something about that you had started talking about how you wasn't as good as so-and-so. And that's the great thing, we don't have to be as good as somebody else. We just have to be good enough for us. We have to be willing to continue and not worry about what someone else is doing, because, it's just like if you're reading a book, if I'm on the first chapter and you're on the 10th chapter, you're further along than I am. But I've still got a full journey ahead of me, a lot of experiences ahead of me that I can still experience throughout these chapters, and then I will get to where you're at. And, it's just, you have to have those experiences throughout your life. If a book is your life, and, once you get to the end of it, that's it. There's no more. There's no continuation. There's not a sequel. That's it. If, I'm on chapter 3 and there's, let's say, 27 chapters, I've got a lot of experience left. I've got a lot of things in life that I still am blessed with to experience. And the greatest thing about it is the chapters in the past, they don't affect what's going through in the future unless I allow them to. If I focus on those first couple chapters in my life that may have been terrible, then it can shape the rest of it. But if I've read that, it's in the past, let's continue on. I keep reading and getting into it, experiencing and doing everything I can to make the rest of the book the best that I can be, then amazing things can happen. And it's amazing how you come on here talking about health, and it ties in still yet with what I teach, which is the mindset, and overcoming obstacles in your life, overcoming fears, overcoming self-doubts, overcoming negativity. It's amazing how that's still tied in together. And I wasn't even planning that. It just kind of happened with things you said. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, actually, there's a complete link between all of that.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, most people do not come out of high school having a really good sense of who I am, what my strengths are, what am I not that good at. We tend to focus far more on our weaknesses because of the conditioning that's taken place. And as long as we're doing that, how can we possibly focus on ourselves and really start looking after this phenomenal machine? Because if you're not good enough, why would you even look after this body, this being? And in fact, for the most part, I had no sense of who I was being at any moment in time. I really didn't. I just floundered through life. And that's the only word that I can use until the wake-up call came. And when you start talking about mindset and needing to shift mindset, that ultimately is the most important learning that any of us can do. Because if we can shift our mindset to the point of truly appreciating this body, appreciating what we have, focusing on what our strengths are, our uniquenesses are, then we don't have to go into the pit and look for, oh, I can't do this as well as somebody else can. Why did I do this? I shouldn't have done this. Why did I get angry? Every time I get angry, I know I got hooked by something in my background, not by the situation. Because when I'm on a mountain and the weather changes, and this is high altitude climbing, this is not the trekking part, or I hit crevasses, I don't yell and scream and shout and get angry at whoever. I simply ask myself, what do I do next? And yet, in our human interactions, when somebody isn't doing what I think that they should be doing, or they're doing something that I think they're doing to me, unfortunately, I let my emotions get in the way. And if I don't have a way of changing my mindset about that, I'm not going to have the relationship with them that I want. I'm not even going to have the relationship with me that I want, because every time I get angry, I put my body under stress. So I just love what you just said and what you picked up, or the thread that you picked up on.
Well, I appreciate that. So I know we've been on here for a while now. I want to be kind of thoughtful of anybody's time and your time as well. So do you have, well, first of all, I know you had talked about that you would like to offer something free to anybody watching or anybody who watches the replay. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're offering there?
Yeah, anybody, there are lots of things that, we can't talk about in the short of an interchange. If anybody wants to go into a little bit more depth with me, I'm not a doctor, but at 83, I'm not on any meds. I think I know something about preventing my body from needing a doctor. And if I can help anybody in that regard, or if somebody is really struggling with weight loss and wants to know a little bit more about how to shift this mindset, or this mind entrapment, I call it, away from the bad carb cravings, I'm happy to have a chat with them. All they need to do is send me an email.
Okay. Care to tell them what your email is?
Yeah, it's Werner, and that's spelled WERNER at Quest, not West, Quest, and then the number 736.com. So it's Werner at quest736.com. And if you just put in the subject matter, Timothy, I'll know exactly where the link is, and it won't go into my spam.
All right. Subject, Timothy. All right. Timothy. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Werner. I greatly appreciate it. Would you like to give any final thoughts to the listeners today?
The only thought is you are the master of your house. And that really covers every single aspect of your life, including your health, including your weight loss, including your attitude, including how you interact with yourself and with others. And at the same time, if you're not yet at the mastership level that you want to be, don't blame yourself. It's the conditioning that is keeping you stuck, as it kept me stuck for a long time, and to which I'm still stuck in some parts. But just know that there is help out there. All you have to do is check with the resources. And my sense from our conversation with Timothy, is that he's a really good resource relative to the mind shift. I could probably be a fairly good resource relative to the health part, or even how to find yourself. So don't give up on yourself. Don't be down on yourself. Keep looking at what is possible for you. Create the possibility that you would love to live into, and then start taking steps to actually doing that. And then we will meet at the other side, and we'll laugh and dance and play together.
There you go. There you go. Got to dance and have fun even then. Huh? All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I greatly appreciate you being on the show today. And I'm going to just finish up here and end the broadcast here in just a moment. If you want to stick around or anything to speak to me after for anything, then feel free to. I'll just remove you temporarily from the show, and then I can pull you back in after I end the show, okay?
Thank you so much, Timothy. Greatly appreciate chatting with you and your people.
All right. Thank you. You have a blessed day, and we'll speak to you here in just a moment. All right. That was absolutely fantastic. Now remember, if you want any more information, you want to dive a little bit deeper on this health and weight loss and just more energy, then definitely reach out to Werner. He is an absolutely fantastic resource for this. And I'm so thankful to be able to have him on the show today. And again, Werner at quest736.com, subject line Timothy, and he'll help you moving forwards and anything that you any questions you may have when it comes to health, vitality, energy, weight loss, anything such as that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching later on the replay. Without you, none of this would be possible. So we thank you very much. And we will see you next Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a blessed day.
Believes that everyone has obstacles in which they must overcome in life. He believes that everyone needs someone in their corner. With God and massive ambition, Phelps knows that anyone can overcome the odds. So if you're looking to elevate yourself, Phelps can help.